and we will walk through Revizto 4.4. So this webinar is going to be a focus on all the new things that we did in Revizto 4.4, and 95% of them were client requests. So I want to take the time to say thank you to you all for showing us the issues or challenges that you guys have had, and really being passionate about Revizto enough to be able to send in specific detailed requests of what you're looking for and why. Without you being able to do that for us, there's no way we'd be the product we are today. So we're very thankful for the amount of time and effort you guys spend on looking at those kind of things. So, but to start off with Revizto 4.4, I'm going to start sharing my monitor here. Now you guys should be able to see my screen. There we go. So 4.4 was all about coordination. So basically the major focus around 4.4 was color coding and a revamp to the interface. So by doing that, we focused on how can we better coordinate after design, and how can we better bring more people into the coordination process. I know Navisworks obviously is the industry leader when it comes to coordination platforms, but one of the struggles we saw with our non-technical users or less technical users was it was a very challenging learning curve. So something we want to address was allowing people that were technical in Navisworks to stay in Navisworks and collaborate more effectively through Revizto, and allow other people to stay more involved. So the first thing, we'll run through some of the changes within 4.4. So what you'll notice just from an interface perspective is that everything within the project, all the buttons are now on one screen. So you'll notice there's no drop-down buttons like we had in 4.3. Everything now is up in the open. And as you guys know, for Revizto, we keep simplicity top of the development priorities. So each of these buttons that we've added also have a one-click mentality built into that. So in one click, we should be able to figure out what it does. So we've moved our Intelligent Planner map button up to the far left. For those of you guys that utilize this a lot, that's where it's going to be located, and it gives us just a breakdown of the room names, the elevation, and the level of our project. So if we click over to a specific area, we're going to be, come to that same elevation in that area of the project. Viewpoints, we're all familiar with viewpoints. Measuring tools didn't move. Our new issue button is now right here. So that, I think, was moved just a little bit. We have our section cut button, which didn't move, and then our first new feature. So we're going to get right into this. This is objects here, and this has become a lot more powerful within Revizto. So jumping into the objects button, you're going to see a number of different things. The ability to be able to turn off this entire model, we can do that now, and we can turn on each of these different individual elements. So as we go through here, we can turn on and really isolate the areas that we want to discuss. If we want to make these specific colors, we now have the ability to color code those directly from this filter button. So if I wanted to turn all my air terminals, we could type in a RGB number, or we could just drag and select where we want to color this. So let's do a light green. I'll close off of it, and you'll see all those are going to be changed to green. So a thing to note on this is we don't actually change this for everybody. So if I change this green, that doesn't mean everybody else's model instantly changes green. The only way to do that is by saving a new viewpoint and saving that as your home icon. So what we want people to do is, if they wanted to isolate a portion of their model and have that, have that availability at hand, they could, and it wouldn't affect anybody else's model. So I'll just jump down here. We'll actually isolate, color code this blue just for example purposes, and you can see how effectively and how easy that is to use. So that was the first thing that we did. So our home button now is down here, and you'll notice if I select the home button, we're going to cancel out all those colors I just did. So let me back out of here so we can see the entire model. So it gives us the ability to override Revit filters or appearance profiler colors that we brought in if we want to realign those in Revizto, or if we want to just utilize them for a day or two to show a specific example. Our section cut tool, I'm just going to cut this model just to give a little bit better idea about the pipes that we have in here. We're going to cut that model there, and we're going to go back into some of the additional features that fall underneath this object category. So the next thing that's nice about this is when we zoom in, if we select anything within the model, I'm going to pick out a specific pipe, we're going to see from this duct, all the information comes up just like it normally did. However, unlike Navisworks, what we can do is we can select this button here, and we can see, okay, this flex pipe is part of this greater group. So we can turn off that individual element now, which is a brand new feature in Revizto. So if I want to turn off just that duct, we'd have the ability to do so. So I'm going to turn this off. And you can see that we just eliminate those, where in 4.3, we are eliminating the entire category. As you can see, the same family group is still located there. The next thing we can do is if we want to see what the greater group of this is, we just select this up here. We don't have to scroll all the way through here to see all of them. So I know that's a common complaint maybe around Navisworks or some of the struggles is we can just select this. It's going to show us, okay, this falls under this category. So it makes it really simple for that. Additionally, underneath that aspect is going to be our linked files. So if I come to the filter button now, we can see we have a number of different things. So I've just kind of discussed objects a little bit so far, but we can also do by level. So if we select level, the same principles apply. So we can actually just turn on our basement. Actually, we'll turn off the entire model. And then we'll turn on our basement and our ceiling and maybe the ground level. So we could then color code these to what we'd like. So let's say, okay, I don't like my roof being green, so I'm going to turn that to, we're going to do a magenta. Actually, it looks like a red. So we're going to go with red on that roof. So anyways, we can see the specific color. We can color code the different levels as well. And again, if you just saw me do that, this little button here will clear out the color that you guys have specified if you're just looking to show somebody an example between two things. The next one down here is going to be the linked file. So I exported this out of Navisworks, so it was an NWD that contained our RVT files. So a lot of these files were derived from either DWGs or RVT files. So if we select our objects button and we go into links, you're going to see all the different links that made up this file. So even if we export a Revit model with a bunch of different links or NWD, NWF that contains multiple files, it's going to show all those here. So you can see actually if I pan out, I have the topography turned off. So if I turn this back on, we can just turn that aspect on or some of these other aspects back on. So we can isolate this entire model and then turn on specific links as well. So we'll turn on just a couple portions of this. So we'll go back to home and then we'll go through these links. So if we go through here, isolate the entire model, and then if we want to turn on different aspects of that, we can. So here's my topo is on right now. So if I want to turn that off, select the I button and we'll turn that off. If we want to turn off this piece, we'll turn that off as well. So obviously we're able to easily color code these as well. So we'll turn the topo back on and we'll make this, just for example purposes, yellow. And I'll select the X button and it will color code that entire thing yellow. So pretty simple to use. Again, you can clear those out by selecting your home button now at the bottom of the screen, or you can just select this color and go back to the original exported color as well. Like Revizto 4.3, you also have the different categories that come in. So this is defined by the Revit category. So So piping might contain pipe from the fire protection model and also the plumbing model or MEP model. So so there's a number of different things that can fall in there. So if you're looking to isolate it by a specific link file, definitely use the link portion of the technology. So that, I think, pretty much covers that object button. Kind of continuing on with that aspect, what we'll do is go into 2D. So this is another cool thing is all of those, because we're segmenting those individual links, you can see each of these links will also contain 2D information. So if we brought this in from Revit, for example, you could see all the information that falls within this. So if we're looking for sheets within a specific file, we can bounce through there, select this, and it looks like this is our plant lighting power plan. So we can zoom into here. We still have the same effective button here. We can overlay this, and we can also select jump to 3D if we want to go to that exact elevation on a plan. So I think most of you guys are familiar with this in 4.3, but again, a good thing to show is that we can double click and we can come right into that area of the model. So that's coming from any PDF that you've assigned coordinates to or any plan that came from Revit. And that functions the same way with the green button. If we overlay that, it's gonna cut that model over the top of that as well. So the next button down here to the right of our objects button is going to be phases. So phases is a little flag button with three dots. So this is a highly requested feature as well as color coding, and so we want to include that as well. So when we jump into phases, we can see our existing or new construction, and we can filter those out accordingly. So we can go through all these different phases, toggle those off, and be able to utilize that better for coordination. The camera button has been moved up here, so for recording videos, most of you guys are familiar with this. We can select record, and we can start narrating a video if we want to send it to somebody on an iPad or an owner, or talk about something specific. We can record that, stop recording, and it's going to contain all that audio, render it right up here as well. So I know that feature is not talked about a lot, but that's also still in there and just moved places. Here is our camera share button. I know a lot of you guys that know how it works utilize it quite a bit. So I think this is maybe a feature we don't oftentimes show while either at a trade show or in a presentation or on an online live demo, because people have to be in the exact same model you are. So by sharing cameras, effectively all we're doing is transmitting camera location to the exact location you are within the model. Because Revizto takes a different idea around BIM, we're not tying things directly to a file. We're tying it to a greater coordinate location, which sits on top of all different files, Revit, Revizto, AutoCAD, etc., and allows us to be able to communicate that information in a small, very small coordinate group of numbers to be able to share that across the platform. So because Revizto is local, all it's doing is telling you the exact camera location, coordinate location that it's looking. So that is how our camera share works. I would highly recommend it. It is light years ahead of the speed of GoToMeeting, which you guys will experience some delay today, even with a pretty good internet connection I have. So down here, so we got Zoom, a couple new Zoom features as well. So this is going to allow us to go back to Zoom to Center, or I just lost my model there, or zoom out from a specific point. So those were requested as well. So you'll have to play around with these different features to be able to go to the center or go back out of Zoom to fit all. So certainly a few people had requested that, and we wanted to include that in the 4.4 release. So additionally, one of the other things I wanted to chat about here is going to be overlaying PDFs. I think it's something that we kind of skip over a lot of times, and I think we have time today to be able to discuss how that's working with different clash aspects or clash groups that are brought in. So what you'll notice is in the issue tracker, when we're pushing issues, the issue tracker is going to look a little bit different. We've added a couple new tagging features within 4.4, I'm sorry. And what you'll notice is when we create a new issue, zoom in here. When I create a new issue, we're going to have our tag here. Put that right there, and we can drag this wherever we'd like. And then we can do a call out. So when we select done, you're going to see this push into the issue tracker, and you'll also see a little status bar that's going to show you when that screenshot is sent. So usually it takes just a second there, so you can see when those issues are pressed or when issues are syncing as well. So that's another thing we added within there. Going into tags, this is another nice thing. So for some individuals, there'd be hundreds of tags, maybe tags that were misspelled, or somebody added, doors instead of door or something like that through tag. So utilizing our tagging mechanism, which is right here, we can kind of isolate and filter some of those tags. So we can add tags and we can also remove tags. So this is a nice way to manage all of these. So if I went to remove my June 20th coordination meeting, which we obviously have passed, we don't need that anymore, I'm going to select remove, and we can see that it's going to ask us if we'd like to move those even though there's issues associated. So we can decide to merge that tag and say, you know what, let's address those on our July 10th meeting. So really nice to be able to do that as well. So we can also add tags in here as well. Very simple. We can still do it from the issue tracker, but this is just another way to manage tags. For those of you guys familiar with the access rights, only specific individuals that you give rights to can create tags. So what we see a lot of firms doing around is they'll kind of, in their BIM execution plan, they'll decide we're going to have X, Y, and Z tag, and they'll put all the tags in before the project team is invited. So once the project team is invited, nobody else is allowed to create or modify tags, but in the BIM execution plan, each role is to tag it a specific tag. So they'll have a list of tags. They can search for that tag, but they can't create a new tag. So maybe we want to tag a webinar tag. Let's call it webinar, and I'll add this, which is going to allow us now to have everything tagged as webinar if we choose, but it's not going to allow individuals to add additional webinar tags or things similar. Jumping into another aspect of Revizto is the 2D one, and I actually skipped over that. It's not one that we talk about a lot, but it is pretty cool. So if we go back to our gallery, within each of these within each of these ones that have came in, we have a tagging mechanism for sheets. So if you have specific sheets that you'd like to tag or be able to filter by or isolate, we always tell people to only bring in the sheets that are necessary. If we have 10,000 sheets on a project, it doesn't make sense to bring those in a vector format or even in an image format because of how heavy it is and how long it takes to re-export and update those if they're not going to be utilized. So this makes it really easy to import different documents and tag those effectively. So we can do that, edit, and then add that to a tag, QC issue. So select done, and we can have those tagged that way. So additionally, within the 2D aspect, when we talk about the amount of times some of these vector sheets take to come in, if it's a really large project, we don't want to be bringing in thousands of sheets necessarily unless they're going to be utilized. So to keep the project lighter, especially if you guys are utilizing it on mobile platforms such as the iPad or other tablets, we can optimize that and also add PDFs in. So the first thing, again, showing how PDFs work is going to be importing these PDFs into Revizto and then aligning the tag. So what that means is any of these models that we want to line up, we can select this Setup 3D Overlay. Because this has a little green button next to it, we know that this model is actually already tagged. There's already coordinates associated to this. So if there was not, and this was a PDF, we'd have to set up 3D Overlay, and all we would do is select the corners of the model and select Setup 3D Overlay, and then all we're going to do is pull that over the 3D model to the correct elevation. And effectively, we can make a dumb PDF just as intelligent as a sheet that came from Revit. So that's another thing that we've done within Revizto. The nice thing about that now is if we select, even with a PDF, if we select 10 issues and we have clashes that we brought in from the Clash Detective within Navisworks, those will now automatically show up in the exact location and where they fall in that plan. So this is a highly utilized feature. We've seen a lot of, I'd say specifically on the general contractor side, importing of a floor is if they're working on a project that's 10 levels, they might bring in all 10 architectural floor plans and then a few sections and elevations and a few details, and they'll import their clashes into the Revizto issue tracker, use that for accountability. So what they'll do is they'll filter by all their clashes, they'll assign these all out, they'll batch assign those to the specific individuals, and now those individuals can see effectively the status of those, and as they get closed out, they're going to fall into the closed issue folder. So you can actually see that the Clash Detective automatically closed out these two clashes on this specific floor plan. So if I click on it, we can see more information about when that got closed out. But effectively, all we did was resync clash detection through Navisworks. I would open up Navisworks with this model. However, it's an extremely heavy model, and I'm only running 8 gigabytes of RAM. So the fact that this works on my computer, you know that it's going to work seamless on yours. So you guys have a lot more powerful machines than we do internally. So, but the cool aspect of that is you'll notice when you open up Navisworks, there'll be a resync for clash detection. So you can resync clash detection. It's going to check the model, verify if those issues have been addressed. These issues will be closed out, and they'll go into your closed issue folder. So the name of the game has always been to try to eliminate these clashes and get those closed. So most firms are putting those, once they solve them, they're putting them into the solved category underneath the I button. And then somebody with management credentials or a superintendent is coming through, verifying it's done correctly and closing that out. So the last thing I discussed was optimizing models. That is a 4.3 release, but just want to touch on that briefly as it's pretty heavily utilized. So project optimization under edit. So if we select that, we can see that we can specify maximum or last hope optimization. Last hope optimization will take textures and whatnot out, but for coordination purposes, it's just fine. It reduces the file, I think, about 90% of its original size. So for massive projects, we utilize this quite a bit. And you can also optimize textures for iPad as well if you're utilizing something like an iPad Pro or some of those other projects. And lastly, before I open it up for questions, I want to go over something I think that's extremely important. And we get questions on this on a daily basis, and I think it's because we haven't touch base on it. So if we go to Revizto.com, the notifications, as you guys are all aware, within Revizto, when you're notified or when you have an issue assigned to you, the issue tracker will have a little number 1 or 2 or 5 next to it. So you'll have an issue count associated to issues that have been assigned to you, just like Facebook or LinkedIn or instant message on your iPhone. So what you'll notice is you'll get an email automatically every time somebody comments on that, every time somebody marks up something, every time the status changes, and with thousands of issues, people oftentimes route these to their junk mail, and rightfully so. So something that most people aren't aware of is when we log into the Revizto, go to Revizto.com and you log in, one of the first things you'll see underneath is workspace, profile settings, and notifications. This will save you guys a lot of headaches. So when we select notifications, we can see global settings. So global settings, and you can see I have mine sent to do not send. We can do send once, and we can say, okay, send once a day, and this is what I'd recommend. So send once a day or once every 6 hours or every 2 hours, depending on what phase your project is and how often you need to be notified. But Revizto sends you a nice email report. So if you've been assigned 10 issues, you're getting it all consolidated into one report. So a lot of people are just doing once a day. They're sent that, and you don't have to route those to your junk mail. And then you can be more granular with specifically what you want to be notified about. So every time somebody adds a comment, maybe we don't care about that. So you can see that all I'm curious is if the deadline changed, issues are closed, status changed, and if it's watched by me or assigned to me, I want to be notified. So those are my specific global settings. We can also go into project settings and specify different parameters based on the projects we're invited to. So I can come through a number of these different projects, and we can specify the exact settings that I want on those specific projects. So that is the notification aspect within Revizto. And again, when you come to the home page, it's right underneath your login credentials and notifications. So we're about a half an hour in here. I want to open it up for questions and get you guys out of here back to doing what you guys need to do. So so let me see here. Are there any questions that you guys have? So I think right now I don't have. So we got a couple questions in here that we're gonna run through right now. And so the first question we're going to have is going to be, is Revizto obscure model below? In Revizto, that obscures the model below it. I'm not familiar with what that question might entail. Make sure I got the whole question here. Okay, is there a solution yet for going from 2D to 3D if you're using black backgrounds in your Revit window? Creates a black overlay in Revizto that obscures the model below it. Paul Cleric. Paul, let me follow up with you. I don't know that answer. I haven't ran into that. So I'll mark that down as a follow-up item. I'll reach back out to you, Paul. So from DJ, he's looking for, I would like to toggle fly and walk mode while recording. So that's been a request, DJ. We can look at that for a future release. I know currently you can't do that. So if that was a question, I know currently you still cannot do that, but we'll look at doing that. One of the things we did change is within Revizto VR, which I didn't spend any time talking about, we can teleport now. So you're not forced to walk or fly everywhere. You can select on either the Oculus controllers or the HTC Vive. You can jump in between them. So feel free to be able to try that out when you're in Revizto VR. So how does the link in the Sheets function work? Good question. Actually, that's something I didn't address today. So all of your, if you have details tied into floor plans, you should just be able to click on those. You should be able to just click on those details within the plan, just like a lot of other Bluebeam, or I think there's a number of other 2D platforms that function that way. So PlanGrid, I think, has the exact same thing where you can select details if that's what you're asking. All you do is double click. If you're talking about how does the link in Sheets function work, if you're talking about the section cut button, really it's automatic if it's exported from Revit. So if it's an intelligent plan, you just select this green button, and you'll notice that it's going to cut this over the specific model. The elevation is all lined up, and we can see all that. If it's tied into, if you're talking about the details, those will automatically come in as well. And if you're talking about PDFs, you need to select the Setup 3D Overlay button. So the next thing that we got on here, let's see here for questions. Is there a way to create checklists? Checklists. So I guess maybe through our issue tracker, we don't have like a checklist button. That was from Helen. So we do not have checklists within there. So her example was we want to check for certain coordinate issues and plan ahead. So we don't have like an area for that. You can assign a blank issue. I've seen people utilize that. So they'll just have a blank, they'll import a blank PDF, and they'll just create an issue there, and they'll create an assigned issue that has no coordination or relevance to the model. Brett says, awesome update in 4.4. Is there any plan to incorporate clash detection within Revizto instead of bringing it in from Navisworks? It's a question that we get a lot, Brett. One of the things we are focusing on for 4.5 is going to be importing clashes from Navisworks and having Revizto intelligently line them up in groups. So instead of bringing in groups, have that come directly into, have those come in directly to Revizto, and Revizto will intelligently align clashes that might be associated to a specific pipe run that's clashing 100 different things. You'll group that as one issue. So we're doing a lot of issue tracker improvements and consolidation of issues to try to help ensure there's not 5,000 issues in each project, and we can try to eliminate those and consolidate those into a more concise and more effective way to coordinate issues. So I would say not in immediate release, there's not, but it's certainly something we're asked quite a bit. John Tachis is asking about HoloLens, any plans for that? Yeah, so we get a lot of requests from either HoloLens or other AR, augmented reality solutions, the DAQRI helmet as well. Because Revizto brings in all the BIM information, as you guys are aware, I think down the road it's going to suit itself very well for facilities management and for AR. Right now, Revisto's focus is to help as many of you guys with the ROI on your current projects and eliminate, headaches. So AR is certainly something we're going to look into. We just want to make sure that the hardware and it's a usable technology that's going to make you guys either more efficient or allow your company to be more profitable. So we don't want to add in cool features just because we'll attract a lot of attention because we have HoloLens, but we want to make sure that there's a methodology behind it that is going to add up to a bigger business purpose. So, but great question. We appreciate that. Wes Clark says, I would like to see more about phases from existing demo, new, etc. if we have a model with phases. Yeah, so phases, so like anything, as you guys have seen with even like the clash detection aspect of Revizto, or the object category and filter category. We put a lot of these releases out based on client requests, and we do it extremely quick. So we try to make them as stable as possible. We do a ton of beta testing on it. We test a lot of models with it, but we know that they're not going to be perfect in 2 months. So we put them out, and they're workable, and then we make sure that they're stable, and then we'll take feedback and tailor those features. So you guys have seen over the last 2 or 3 years issue tracker improving and little aspects adding into there. We just added in links to sheets and PDFs. Those are another addition to 2D. So if we were just to hold off 2D and not put out anything, it would take us 2 years to put out a release. So certainly it's the first aspect of demo of the phases. So we'd love to hear your feedback on what you're looking for, and we'll try to evaluate that and see where that fits in the plan. So certainly give us any feedback and suggestions that you guys have on that. Sam says, I presume that each sheet in a linked PDF would need to have setup 3D done separately. Is that correct? Yes. So when you're creating when you're converting to a personal document format, you're losing all that intelligent information. We always joke about how much emphasis we put on BIM as an industry, and BIM, and yet we still the most popular workflow is converting to a non-BIM format from a BIM format. So ironically enough, that's kind of the way we've worked. So we do need to assign coordinates to that, and it's really not very time consuming. I mean, we have a couple customers that do it just because it's lighter, and they, specifically, I'm thinking of a couple examples on large projects, and they assign them so they can see where these issues are falling. So now they're not doing this to 150 PDFs. And once you align it up once, when you import a new PDF or the updated PDF, it automatically aligns itself. So you only have to do it once, and I would say I can do it in 10 seconds from a PDF. So pretty quick to be able to do that. Alana says, I just started to use Revizto. Is there a way not to sync incorrect export from Revit to Revizto if I would like to keep my previous export and not overwrite it with the incorrect one? Yes, so there's version control, Lana. And for anybody that is new to Revizto, I highly recommend going to our website, and you'll see request a live demo. And we can walk through the entire Revizto platform with you. This is specifically tailored towards some users that are looking at just what's new in 4.4. So if you happen to jump on here and you want to see a little bit more detail and you're intrigued, certainly go to our request demo button and jump on there. So yes, the answer is, if you go into projects and you go to revision, you'll notice on here that we'll see I don't have any rights for revisions on here. So this isn't my project, but it would show you a list of when people export it, and if I had export rights, when were those exported. There's also another button on there that would allow you to revert to a current revision. So we'll see if I can't show you on, no, so that one's not gonna. Anyways, yeah, so revision control is pretty seamless. So just go to projects and select that revision control, and you're gonna be able to see all the different things within there. Select the version you want and select set as current version, and it will replace that other one. So the next question, I just started to use, okay, we got that one already. I was referring to details or 2D sections. It is not coming automatically when I export sheets from Revit. So I would send that to our service team, which is service@revisto.com. If you show them an example of that, if those are sheets from Revit and they have links to the details that are also in Revizto, those will come through. Obviously, if you don't import those details into Revizto that are associated with the sheet, there's no way Revizto can point it to the correct sheet within, or the correct detail within Revizto. So I would just verify that you have the details that are aligned on that floor plan and you have the floor plan in there. If you've done all of that, then I would send that to our service team, and they can take a little deeper dive into that and maybe help you out on why they're not coming through. Aligning clashes from Navisworks similar to iConstruct, Helen asks. Yes, not. So iConstruct is grouping clashes within Navisworks. Revizto would be taking a different kind of point at that. We're not trying to compete with iConstruct in terms of that. It would be done directly within Revizto and organizing that intelligently to the model. So I am familiar with iConstruct. I know a lot of you guys utilize it for clash coordination, but not the exact same thing. So you'll have to kind of hold off until we have a beta out for that to be able to see that. And I'm sure in a month or two we might have a couple sneak previews that we might post on our Twitter page or LinkedIn if you guys are following us. So next thing is in the new feature video, you can click the section and it opens the 2D section. You can So in the new features, you can click on the section and it opens the 2D section. I don't know if I specifically understand what the question is around there, but yes, you can select sections just like you can floor plans or details, and it's going to overlay on top of that. So for those of you guys not familiar with that functionality, any plan that came from Revit or any PDF that you align, even if it's a section, you can overlay on top of that specific elevation. So the next question, aligning clashes never, okay, hi Mark, any changes to report schedule area? Let me see here, sorry about that. Any changes to report schedule area? To change report schedule area. So our reporting, if this is a question about our online reporting, yes, that's coming up soon. That should be released, I would guess, within the next 5 weeks. We've been putting a lot of emphasis into revamping kind of the Revizto workspace, redesigning reporting, being able to report by specific project, individual, how much time is spent in the technology, where time is being spent, very customized reporting to be able to print things out. That is coming up shortly. So yes, if that was the question about schedule reports, that's going to be coming up pretty quick here. John says, Mike and I have a killer suggestion next time we have a call. Again, we're always open to suggestions. And again, as I said at the beginning of the webinar, we really, really appreciate all the feedback that you guys can give us on suggestions. As you guys have probably noticed, anybody that's followed us for more than a year has probably seen some of their recommendations or suggestions being put into life. And 4.4 is no different with color coding and phases and being able to do that. So we certainly want you guys to know that when we hear something, it's not one ear out the other. It's being put in there. We have to do some research and development, and we feel like we can do that quicker than anybody else. So we try to research how to do it and try to put it to life as quickly as we can. So we absolutely love the feedback that you guys give us and the enthusiasm. Aligning clashes. We already talked about that. Let's see, what else do we got in here? So additionally, clashes from Navisworks. Okay, we got that one. Arthur is in Mexico. He's one of our partners in Mexico, and he said anybody from Mexico that needs a demo in Spanish, they're more than happy to help. So he's been doing an awesome job connecting with individuals down there and kind of articulating that in that region. So thank you, Arthur, for that. So if there is requests that need to be done in Spanish, we certainly have a resource for that. Actually, about every language, most languages, we have a resource to be able to provide a native speaker with a live demo. So Sam says, this is super cool, love 4.4, we got that. Is there a possibility to modify viewpoints and save to issues in the issue tracker? So yes, so that is coming. So one of the things that we're going to focus on is actually when an issue is updated, we can update the screenshot as well. So if the model updates, it'll take a new screenshot based on those parameters. That's not in 4.4. That will be coming up in a new version, but that was something that we heard, and we're going to take a look at that. Another thing you can do is you can modify where the actual view is. So, and that might be what you're referring to. So on the bottom of issue tracker, you'll see a tag, and if you have the right parameters, the little blue tag that comes up on 2D plans or in 3D while in Revizto, you can move that after the fact. So, so a lot of times when you're creating issues, maybe a year ago in Revizto, you create an issue, that tag would actually tag your camera location, not at the intersection of where you're looking. So that's why you can see where we move that tag, and you can alter that tag in 2D or 3D if you go back into the issue tracker. So that is a possibility right now. Screenshots are kind of the next thing coming up. Super cool, awesome. Thanks, Mark. Overlay. Okay, so when I am on an overlay basis on the floor plan, it would be nice to see a list of other plans with the same alignment pop up. In other words, switch disciplines without the incorrect one. So Lana, yes, you can do that already. And if I had a project open here, so anytime that we have floor plans in here, strange. So anytime we have floor plans next to issue tracker, you'll see a 2D button. And what you'll notice is within the 2D, there'll be like a little drop down next to 2D. So if there's an issue that lines to 5 or 6 different plans that are on the same exact elevation, fire protection, you have your plumbing plan, you have your architectural floor plan, and they're all about the same elevation, you can toggle in between those. It'll also tag those to sections and details too, so that's already in there. It's on the left side of the issue tracker. Additionally, I had issues with export not having options for work set selections and relinquish support for a new build, but hope this is reviewed. So in Revizto 4.4, and actually it might have been in 4.3, we should, so the export scheduler should bypass any kind of pop-up windows that you guys have now. So I know some of them, if there was work sets and different things that need to be windows, pop-up windows that need to be bypassed, it was getting held up on that. We fixed Navisworks first, and then about 2 weeks later, we pushed out a patch for Revit. But in 4.4, that should be addressed. So Mark, if you're still having that issue, you can email me or service@revisto.com. We'd be happy to address that for you if you're still running in that challenge. Hopefully you're on the latest version of Revizto, but if you're not, certainly let us know what's going on, and we'd be happy to help. And I think this might be our last question, unless there's additional ones here. During export section, we need to shift and control selected for sheets and to check groups of sheets instead of one at a time. So you should be able to batch assign sheets and select sheets now, Mark. And that's another thing that we improved in 4.4. So if you're still having that issue, give us a shout. We should have addressed that. I know that was brought up a couple of months ago, and I think we already address that. So other than that, I think that is all the questions here. Hopefully I can get you guys out here with 50 minutes in, and I think unless there's any additional questions, I think we hopefully addressed all of those questions. So so there's two other questions here. Sorry, can we have the name, email address of the person? Yep. So so Eric, if you can email me directly, my email is mark@revisto.com, and I can connect you with our resource in Mexico, and I believe, and he'll be able to connect with you. So let's do that. And so if you email me directly, I'll get you guys in touch, and we can set up a demo for you. Can we disable any ability to delete an issue by regular users? Yes. So you can do so within the project parameters, which is on top, which is underneath your share category. So in Revizto, if you go to share, you're going to be able to see a breakdown of each individual user. So if you have a parameter called architect, and architects, anybody with the title architect within Revizto can't delete issues unless they're a super architect, as an example, then they're going to be then they're not going to be able to delete issues. So that's all within the managed access level within the shared category. So you can define custom parameters there and allow specific individuals with specific titles to do specific things. So that, again, is another thing that we've added in there probably within the last 2 to 3 months. So again, so another person asked about Spanish support and Spanish demo. If you email me, Mark mark@revisto.com. I can certainly connect you with him, or if you email anybody at Revizto, we can connect you with an individual that can put that out in Spanish for you and give you kind of a run through of Revizto. So by email again, mark@revisto.com. Other than that, I think we got all the questions. Thank you again for all the questions, and thank you again for all your time, guys. We did record this, so we're going to post this on our YouTube page, and stay in tune for our next global webinar. Thanks, guys.